A lost art within the world of MMORPGs today is questing. Any modern release works as follows. You make a character, and you burn through a linear and plain leveling campaign as fast as humanly possible to reach the shiny endgame. That's what it's all about. The dungeons and the raids, the endgame PvP, and while that has been refined in many ways, the questing and leveling seems to be a forgotten memento of the past, which is interesting because it's something that literally every player does. Some people raid, some people just do dungeons, others prefer PvP, some people just like making gold, but everyone levels. So if that's the case, why does it seem to be genre-wide the most neglected activity by developers? Well, the answer is that it's seen as a chore. But why is it seen as a chore? Because it's designed to be one. It's like this self-fulfilling circular prophecy. People see questing as boring, so developers don't spend time on it, which makes them boring, so people see them as such. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Or you have developers offering players the ability to pay money to skip it. How awesome of a job you must have done for someone to say, hey, can I pay $50 to not play this part of your game? At what point, I wonder, do developers intentionally make their questing as boring as my fucking voice in order to incentivize purchasing the ability to skip it? Yeah, the industry is in a pretty sad state of affairs, I'd say. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Old School RuneScape, in my opinion, so far is a huge standout, both in the so-called golden era of the MMO back in 2001 and today. Even though I've just started, I can already tell that the questing isn't just something to slog through to get to the actual game. It is the game, and if there's one thing that I would make as a selling point, this is it, because it's currently offering something that I haven't found anywhere else within the genre. I always thought that the quests in World of Warcraft were pretty revolutionary, and they were in some senses. Just the fact that it had a full linear campaign that took you zone by zone from 1 to 60 was pretty groundbreaking at the time, as the genre at that point was very grindy. There were quests to be found, but from the ones I've played and from what I understand, mob grinding was pretty much required in order to level efficiently. But as far as the actual content of the quests is concerned, RuneScape is hard to match. Like, these are actual quests that you would expect to find in a single-player RPG. They require problem solving and route planning, not just go kill 10 defy smugglers and trappers. And I gotta say that not following any guides and actually having to puzzle this stuff out has been pretty intimidating, but also really rewarding when I do actually figure it out. Almost as rewarding as transforming your depressing decor into an amazing studio with Displate, the premier destination for bold, high-quality metal posters that bring your space to life. Unlike paper prints that fade or tear, Displates are crafted from durable steel with vibrant and highly detailed artwork. They're designed to stay beautiful for decades. Each one arrives gift-ready, so you're already set for the holidays. They offer over 2 million designs, including officially licensed art from Marvel, Star Wars, and World of Warcraft, of course, and much more. I got one of the best expansion, the Lich King, and I hung it over my toilet so we could have matching thrones. But whether it's your favorite game, movie, or abstract art, there's something for everyone. And there's also the new texture line featuring tactile textures, 3D contours, and matte or gloss finishes for a premium and unique look. The best part, in my opinion, is how you hang them, and if you're worried about damaging your walls, it's no problem, as they give you this tool-free magnetic mounting system. So no nails, no holes, and also no mess. And if you ever need to change it, just swap designs in seconds and let your space evolve with your mood. So check them out. It's perfect for a man cave or something. They really have something for everyone, and it's a perfect gift. And even if you're late, no worries, because these ship within 5 business days tops. So solve all of your gifting riddles and save some money while you're at it. And head on over to displate.com/MadSeason, or use my code MadSeason at checkout for up to 36% off your order. But anyways, as I was saying, the quests are very rewarding and also time-consuming. Like, there's a bit of injustice going on here. These quests take me a minute to explain, but what you guys aren't seeing are the 2 hours of me walking and all of this trial and error. And in case I didn't mention it yet, you walk as slow as my grandparents have sex in this game. Old School RuneScape, for many, is considered to be one of the greatest MMOs of all time, and I've started a quest to see just why that is. Having primarily played World of Warcraft for the past 2 decades, I have the privilege to be able to play RuneScape from a completely blind perspective, and I'm challenging myself by attempting to complete every quest in the game in Ironman mode without the use of guides. Today, I offer you a glimpse in the experience of a World of Warcraft transplant's first adventure in the world of RuneScape. Today, we continue our folly quest of trying to quest, but first some managerial-like business. There's a little bit of confusion in regards to the Ironman mode that I explained in the first video, but not the last one, so it's my fault. But when I first started this game, I did it on a normal character, and then I did something of a first impressions video, and then after that I decided that I enjoyed it enough to make it into a series, and then recreated my character as an Ironman for the extra challenge. So up until this video, what you've mostly seen is footage of that first non-Ironman character in his full mithril set, which was obtained through the adventure paths. So that's over now. There are a few quests that I did on that character, but I did not record, and I will be recreating here on my Ironman character, so I'll tell you about those first, and then we'll kind of go back again and cover my first steps on the actual Ironman after character creation. Yeah, I know it's kind of confusing the way I've done this, but just bear with me for a moment and it'll all make sense. And then from this video, it'll be very straightforward. So I decided to give the cat another try. Examining it, it says it's thirsty, so I go back to milk some one-teat cows and feed it the milk, which works, but it still won't let me pick it up. Returning to Gertrude, she says that his favorite meal is a sardine seasoned with dougal leaves, which can be found right outside of her house, which works, but it still won't let me pick it up, as apparently this cat is higher maintenance than my imaginary girlfriend. But luckily, the examine tool seems to be pretty handy, and I'm going to remember this for the future. But it clues me in on the muse down below, which I had previously exhausted, but I guess I did it out of order, because trying again, I eventually find a kitten, so I give that to the cat, and it returns to Gertrude on its own, and as a reward I get some food and a pet kitten to take care of. I decide that this is far too much responsibility, so I lock him in my bank with no food nor water. At Port Sarim, I encounter a pirate who really wants a drink, and in exchange he'll give me some treasure, but the rum he wants is only made on the island of Karamja, and there's an issue. They've locked down exports and they won't let the rum off of the island, so I'll have to do some trickery to smuggle it off. I check the docks and find transportation to the island, and speaking with the customs officer, it looks like they will indeed pull a TSA and shove their fist up my rectum, but considering I've already had a colonoscopy recently, I opt to pass on it this time. I guess these dum-dums haven't heard of Hearthstone, so I buy the rum, cook up the teleport, and what the F? It's gone. Well, that's some bullcorn. You know, this was the one moment where I felt like I was being clever. You just couldn't let me have that, could ya? So I walk all the way back and pay for both the boat trip and the rum again, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but gold's pretty hard to come by in this game. I wish that they would add some sort of way to pay real-life money for virtual currency, because despite the fact that I don't have time to play video games, I still choose to play the most time-consuming genre humanly possible. Told you so, by the way. So clearly we didn't play by the rules here. There's a banana plantation nearby who makes shipments to the food store in Port Sarim, which sounds awfully convenient. The owner says that the customs officer trusts him and she doesn't even check his crates anymore. So I ask him for a job, and I load the crate with bananas and slip in the rum, and I go to the food store owner to retrieve it. I see it in the back, but I'm barred entry for some reason. Don't you hate it when NPCs in video games don't just let you rifle through all of their belongings? He says that only employees are allowed back there, so I ask for a job, and I need to be in proper uniform, which I am not about. In fact, I'm in my underwear as I record this voiceover. He says that there's one right next door in the fishing shop, and luckily that owner doesn't seem to mind if I blatantly steal from him. So I get in uniform, get in the back, get the rum, fuck you, I quit, and return it to the pirate, who gives me a key to a chest in the upper floor of the Blue Moon Inn in Verak. Yeah, why didn't you just open it then? Oh, he's a Blizzard developer. Actually, speaking of which, this is kind of reminiscent of another video game that I've played in the past. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of World of Warcraft. Remember the Stalvin quest chain where you're tasked with opening a chest in the second floor of the Goldshire Inn? It's kind of similar, except instead of wholesome pirate treasure, it's about uncovering the story of a raging pedophile. So I open the chest and get ready to channel my inner Scrooge McDuck, and oh my god, it's another. Are you kidding me? So it says that Ceradim, I have no idea who that is, points at the X in the garden in Falador. Well, here's a guy who's pointing, and here's a vague X, and oh, I solved a puzzle. A series of puzzles, actually. Oh my god. Please clap. Since we're on a roll here, the activity advisor directs me to the White Knight's Fortress for a quest that I now apparently have the requirements for. They're at war with the Black Knights, and they have some sort of weapon of mass destruction, and I'm asked to infiltrate their fortress in order to destroy it, and to also harvest all of their oil and lithium, you know, while I'm over there. This is another case of knowing what items to bring beforehand saves you just an insane amount of time. I'm barred entry as I'm not in proper uniform, so I very suspiciously ask what the uniform is, which they tell me. It's a bronze medium helmet and an iron chain body. Having grinded quite a bit in the barbarian village at this point, there's a helmet shop there, and looking at the map, there's a chain body vendor in Falador. So I get in uniform, get past the guards, and these Black Knights are like ridiculous. I can kill them, but it takes 10 heals, so I instead just try to run past everything. The castle is kind of built like a maze with secret passages, but I find a hole in the ground where my character says that they can see a cauldron below, and I seem to run into a dead end until I find one of the secret passages, and following that I eventually find a spot to eavesdrop. There's a witch who's brewing some sort of apocalyptic potion and is waiting for the final ingredient, a cabbage from the Draenor Manor. She heavily emphasizes that it has to be one from Draenor or else it won't work, so seems fairly simple. I head south a ways to find a normal cabbage outside of the mansion, and I return it to the hole in the ground above the cauldron, drop it in, and thwart their plans. I return to the White Knights, and as a reward I get a decent chunk of change. This one was really cool, actually. Probably my favorite so far. And again, you're not seeing like an hour of walking and getting lost, but figuring it out was actually quite rewarding. It kind of reminds me in the Paleolithic era when I was a kid, before the internet era, and all you really had was your own wits, or a $15 strategy guide if you bought those, which I did, when I could afford it at least. I remember one time my brother and I were playing Final Fantasy VII when it first came out, and we had gotten to the Shinra Mansion where there was that puzzle with the safe where you had to find the combination. We were stumped and really bummed out, and we told our uncle about it, and without even being asked, he went to the game store, got us the strategy guide, and he snuck it behind us when we weren't looking and just left it there, so we were able to get the answer. So, shoutouts to Uncle Season Show. What a boss. I still have it today, actually. But anyways, back to my point. I think it's worth noting that with the guide culture and wikis and how accessible everything is today, this is kind of a lost art. Even if the player forgoes guides, developers sort of design a lot of the discovery out of their games through the form of waypoints or yellow paint that I've bitched about like 3 times already in the series. I can't speak for the entire game, but at least for now, from what I can tell, OSRS doesn't seem to do that, and the information on how to complete all of these quests is there. Sometimes you have to dig through dialogue to find it, but from everything I've done so far, it's all been discoverable in-game, which is definitely a lost art, and I hope that continues. I definitely recommend it if you're in a similar position as me, and you've never played this before, and you're looking for a game with quests that require some investigation to complete. This was the point where I stopped my review of the game, posted that to YouTube, and then decided to make it into a full series. So this is where I decide to make the actual Ironman character. So there's a lot of catch-up to do, but since I know what the actual quests need, I should be able to do them in a fraction of the time. like how Morgan didn't give me his stupid garlic last time. So in retaliation, this time I murdered his wife. The first thing I will say though is that I noticed with Ironman, you don't get those handy adventure path rewards to start you off. So in previous footage, you'll notice that I'm decked out in mithril gear, which has been very useful, but now I have to rely on myself for all of my equipment needs. I start grinding the goblins, but they actually put up a decent fight now. I really want to see if I can complete every quest in this game without dying, so I can add it to my pickup line of being a rank 14 Grand Marshal, World First 300 Fishing, World First Bloodsill Admiral, and the recreation of a 15-year-old video game, so all of the mamacitas can awkwardly stare at me. So I err on the side of caution and decide to work on my armor first. I have 0 gold to speak of, so I really have to make everything myself. I head on over to the mining spot near the swamp and I start working on my mining, and this itself was also pretty intriguing to me. In World of Warcraft and most other MMOs I've played, there are of course mineral veins out in the world, and they're static spawns, but they have a lengthy respawn timer. This is of course done to dissuade node camping and botting, I'm sure, but in this game, you don't even have to ever move. The veins take just a couple of seconds to pop back up, which I would say is detrimental in terms of botting, but beneficial in that it's just another thing that makes this so friendly to run in the background. Speaking of this, I should say that you'll notice that throughout this challenge that my gathering skills are going to vastly outpace the rest of my character. The reason for that is because I'm a true gaming goblin. I'm gaming when I'm editing, I'm gaming when I'm doing internet research, I'm gaming when I'm releasing my bowels, when I'm driving. This is probably one of the friendliest second monitor games I've ever played, and it's quite rewarding. It's so simple, but it does a very good job of rewarding your investment and making you feel like you're progressing, and I'm just high on dopamine 24/7. The Gathering in general actually feels very similar to New World in a lot of ways, where anyone can do anything, and each tree you fell or each node you deplete gives you experience. That might be a scary comparison considering that New World kind of sucked ass, but the Gathering was actually one of its strengths, in my opinion. But anyways, I do this for a very long time. I craft myself some weapons, a longsword and a scimitar, and examining them we have 3 different stats that I have no idea what they mean. Some are higher than others, some are lower. I just use the highest cumulative. Yeah, my G, my Ha, and my La's are just off the charts. I make a few pieces of armor, but they're still dealing some pretty decent damage, so I have to make a full-on set, and I'm also starting to make some money by selling the extra stuff to the general store. I eventually make this diesel 2-hander, which has insane Gahalas. The walking at this point has really started to wear on me, so I looked at the map and I noticed that there's this crafters guild that has mining nodes right next to a bank. I figured that it would be more efficient to just deposit all of the ore and then finding a furnace next to a bank so I can just smelt them all at once. So I walk all the way over, and you need level 40 to enter? Are you... F. Level 40 crafting. I'll show you level 40 crafting. I don't even know how to level my crafting. This is a lot of work just to farm goblins. That's all I'm gonna say. So, after a while of stewing, I check the map once more. I notice there's a decent spot in Falador, actually. There's some veins right outside of the castle, and there's a bank right there. Just gotta climb over this little pile of rubble. Oh. So, agility is another skill in the game. Throughout the world, there are these little shortcuts you can use if you've leveled it. This one requires 5. I did notice that there are training spots spread throughout the world, so I head on over to the one in Draenor, and there's this little obstacle course where you can relive the mid-2000s and record some bad hardcore parkour videos and upload them to your YouTube channel. Did I mention that this is a good game to play while you're doing something else yet? As monotonous as this seems, I do actually kind of like it. It kind of reminds me in World of Warcraft where you're bored, but you have nothing better to do, so you just do circles in Dalaran. Luckily for me, I've had nothing better to do my entire life, so it's about as up my alley as my recent colonoscopy.
You merely adopted the monotony. I was born in it. Molded by it. I didn't experience exciting gameplay until I was already a man. By then it was nothing to me but blinding.
So, with my ultimate goal of just farming goblins slightly easier, I'm at about hour 12 of being sidetracked at this point, but I get my agility to 5, and I return to my spot and get back to mining, and I stockpile a decent amount of ore, and now all I need is a spot with a bank next to a furnace. The best one I can see is just west of Varric, and I see a bunch of other people doing the same thing, which makes me feel smart for once because I seem to get the idea. And while I'm here, I notice a random iron mace on the ground that I yoink, which has some pretty decent gahalas. And now that all of the ore is smelted, I head into town to smith it, and... What the fuck is that noise? Please, someone tell me what the F is going on. It sounds like a goblin is being molested by a leopard. So from this farming run, I leveled my blacksmithing enough to make myself a full set of bronze armor, and I also noticed that there's a sword shop in town that sells many different tiers. The best one being this green one, adamant, and oh my god, it's like 100 times more powerful than what I'm using now. But it's of course insanely expensive, but I figured that this is what I should save my money for, as combat XP is based off of damage dealt, so this would result in the fastest grind. So now that I have my armor, I should just buy the best weapon, and I can rake in all of the XP. And then I'll be ready to farm some goblins. So I go to my bank and I sell everything that looks like it has value. I have a bunch of gems from mining, and also some odds and ends from those bot checks that pop up every now and then. But I'm only able to scrounge up around 700 gold, which is nowhere near enough. I need 3,200 for the sword that I want. So I return to the goblins in full plate armor, ready to AFK grind my way to victory, and they're still effing me up. What the F? Okay, is it just me, or does it seem like the items don't really do jack crap in this game? I have so much Gahala, what's the problem here? How are these wimpy level 1 enemies still dealing damage to me? So I decide that the next best thing to do is to just save up for that sword. I channel my inner fisherman. I'm not sure if I mentioned this yet, by the way, but I did actually get world first 300 fishing in the recreation of a 15-year-old video game. So I decide to sell my cooked fish, and it's alright. I get to the level where I can use bait to catch salmon and trout, and then I cook them and sell them. So I'm leveling my fishing, cooking, wood cutting, and fire making all at once. And the real moneymaker here is the salmon, as it sells for way more than the trout. But the only problem is the feathers, which you buy from the bait shop in Port Sarim, but they're so expensive. Sometimes I'm just barely able to pull a profit depending on my luck. So I eventually take a break and try something more my level. I channel my inner link and find some chickens to terrorize. And wait, they drop feathers? Oh my effing G. I've wasted so much money on that stupid shop. And they drop a lot. So I decide to release my inner rage on chickens for a good while, and my gold income increases by quite a lot. Still though, I decide to take the time to check out some other skills. I see there's thievery, which is interesting. You ever do a Skyrim run and trivialize the entire game by leveling pickpocket and abusing save states? Oh, there's a security expert. That must be it. Oh, whoops, this is a dead man tutor. Well, what is it? PvP is always on? You lose all of your shit, including your bank items? Oh my god. What kind of masochist made this game? Oh, here he is. Wait, it's account security? I guess I've been playing too much Morrowind. Well, what the F? How do you pickpocket people? I need money, damn it. And unfortunately, I picked a male character, so dancing at a mailbox is out of the question. Oh, here we go. Thieving activity. Oh, it's halfway across the world. I instead talk to a crafting trainer who says to take cowhides to the tannery, the closest of which can be found on the other side of the gate to the desert area. By combining tanned hides with a needle and thread, you can make some leather armor, which is quite valuable. But the only problem is that you have to pay money for both the toll and the thread over and over again, so I'm barely breaking even. If I haven't mentioned it yet, this is a lot of work just to kill some goblins. So I eventually just turn back to fishing, and after about a day of playtime, I finally get the fabled 3,200 gold. I head on back to Varric, hit up the sword shop, and like a kid who's been saving up his allowance for 3 months, I blow it all on the green popsicle.
Oh, my precious.
Alright, excuse the server lag when I equip this massive upgrade. What the F? Oh my god.
Farewell for now, mortals. We hope you enjoyed today's video. See you again soon.